In this week's Bizline, Prime Minister asks for macroeconomic stabilization as top priority. And later on, Vietnam's Asia's rising star in logistics. Hello there, you're tuning into Bizline, our weekly economic journal on VTV International. I'm Hoàng Hằng, and as usual, we now take a look at news making headlines in Vietnam's economic scene this week.
After the US Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 0.75 percentage points on the 27th of July, and central banks in many countries raised interest rates through several rounds to combat inflation. On the 28th of July, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính held meetings with the leaders of a number of ministries and agencies to discuss solutions and countermeasures for both immediate and long-term macroeconomic management. Addressing the meeting, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính emphasized that the global situation is evolving rapidly, complicatedly, and unpredictably. Meanwhile, petrol prices and raw materials remain high. As such, the Prime Minister has asked ministries and agencies to closely monitor and take initiative in handling these issues. The current key task is to continue to maintain macroeconomic stability, control inflation, ensure major balances in the economy, promote growth, and fight recession.
In the draft budget on ensuring macroeconomic stability, controlling inflation and maintaining major balances, the Ministry of Planning and Investment has developed 3 scenarios for the last 6 months of the year in 2023. In the best-case scenario, inflation is controlled at about 4% and economic growth will reach the average target of 6.5 to 7% in 2022 and 2023. In the medium scenario, inflation will be higher than 4% but still under control, and economic growth will get close to the average target of 6.5 to 7% in 2023. However, if circumstances are negative, the macroeconomy will face many difficulties, inflation will increase, and growth will be lower than the average target of 6.5 to 7%.
Major foreign financial institutions such as IMF, ADB, and UMRO have made different forecasts on Vietnamese inflation this year, although they all anticipate the figure to hover around 4%, in which the Asian Development Bank ADB, in its Asian Development Outlook, kept its growth forecast unchanged at 6.5% for this year and 6.7% for next year in Vietnam. Despite the challenges, the sufficient food supply in place would contribute to reducing inflation, with the Asian financial institution therefore maintaining its inflation forecast at 3.8% for Vietnam this year and 4% for next year. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund IMF projected that Vietnamese GDP growth would expand by 6%, with its inflation rising to 3.9% this year. Vietnam has benefited from reopening its economy, whilst domestic demand has returned and external drivers remain favorable. However, it is still necessary to stay alert to increasing growth risks, especially the ones posed by surging energy prices.
Vietnam is forecast to be among the fastest-growing economies by 2030, according to researchers at the Growth Lab at Harvard University, who presented new growth projections in the Atlas of Economic Complexity. Specifically, the research finds that countries that have diversified their production into more complex sectors, like Vietnam and China, are those that will experience the fastest growth in the coming decade. It predicts that when the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic dissipate, long-term growth will take off between Asia, Eastern Europe, and East Africa. The ProLab researchers also released new country rankings of the Economic Complexity Index, in which the developing economies that have made the greatest strides in improving their complexity include Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Ethiopia.
Those are some highlights of Vietnam's economic scene. Up next in our crosstalk, we will look into Vietnam's potential to become Asia's rising star in logistics in the coming years. Vietnam's emergence as a new manufacturing hub has contributed significantly to the importance of logistics within its economy. Logistics has been among the fastest expanding sectors in the country, accounting for around 2.5% of the total GDP, More importantly, southern Vietnam is fully capable of competing with Singapore and Hong Kong, China as a global goods transshipment hub and utilizing its production capacity to become an inseparable link in the global supply chain. This is according to a report published in July by consulting firm Cushman Wakefield. Prospects for logistic development as well as policies to enhance Vietnam's position as an integral link in the global supply chain are the main focuses of this week's Bizline. But first, let's review Vietnam's logistic performance over recent years in the following video.
Logistics is one of the fastest growing industries in Vietnam, with an average growth rate of 14 to 16% annually and valued at about 40 to 42 billion US dollars a year. Currently, there are about 30,000 enterprises operating in the logistics market, including foreign invested enterprises and top global logistics groups. Last year, Vietnam moved up 3 places to 8th in the top 10 countries of the Emerging Markets Logistics Index 2021 by agility, creating the attractiveness of the logistics market. Vietnam marked a turning point in marine transportation when the Cai Mep Thị Vải deep seaport cluster in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu province successfully received super container vessel with a capacity of 20,000 20-foot equivalent units or TEUs. And in future, when Long Thanh International Airport in Đồng Nai province opens, it promises to drive the south to develop into a specialized aviation logistics center. Vietnam's logistics industry is expected to thrive based on its rapid post-pandemic recovery, participation in many free trade agreements, high growth in e-commerce, and due regard from authorities.
Aside from the achievements, many risks and challenges still lie ahead for Vietnam's logistics sector. It is our pleasure to connect with the General Manager of Cushman Wakefield, Ms. Trang Bùi. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank you so much, VTV4, for having us.
Now, how do you assess the potential for logistic development in Vietnam, especially with the strong investment of logistic infrastructure in the coming years?
Vietnam have the huge potentials, for logistics, just because that, Vietnam is just standing out in South Asia region as an extension, to the world factory. So I think that because of the favorable geo kind of politics, which I think that's very important at the moment, I think that Vietnam has considered as the first choice for a lot of multinational companies which already have the factory in China, looking for the expansion in Southeast Asia. And Vietnam stand out a very number one choices because I think that the golden location in terms of the sea transportation in this year, one of the deep sea port in Vietnam is already in top 11 of global transshipment port in the world. And I think that that's also showing that the huge potential of logistics in Vietnam at the moment.
A recent report by Cushman Wakefield said that the south of Vietnam is fully capable of competing with Singapore and Hong Kong, China as a global goods transshipment hub and utilizing its production capacity to become an inseparable link in the global supply chain. Why is it so?
I think, Singapore and Hong Kong are different. It have been well established in terms of they become the transshipment hub of the global. Also, I think that they have the favorable that they have a deep sea port and which, well established long time ago. Vietnam stand out very different because if we look at Singapore and Hong Kong, they're not a manufacturing hub like us. They're not. We are. So the country have a potential of, import, export that the products that manufacturing in Vietnam and continue export to other country and other region. Vietnam have all of the right fundamental. And right now we are also in terms of the value of import, export, throughput to the seaport in southern of Vietnam, come rising it up, is in the top 11 or top 10 already.
The capacity of the Thị deep seaport complex for loading and discharging cargo is among the top in the world. The port also has experience in receiving some of the largest ships in the world, carrying cargo from the US and Europe without having to undergo transshipment. Gemalink Port in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu has just imported 2 ship-to-shore cranes. This is a very large crane that has a maximum lifting capacity of 85 tons and a reach that can handle up to 25 containers. Thus, Gemalink Port currently operates 8 shore cranes. Previously, in mid-December 2021, Thị International Port received a super-large ship-to-shore crane weighing 1,500 tons with a maximum lifting capacity of 100 tons and a reach that can handle up to 23 cargo containers.
Một cái tàu đó mà vào cái mép ở dưới 1 ngày thì ở Mỹ có thể mất đến 2-3 ngày. Chưa nói thời gian đợi đỗ ở ngoài, đợi bến để đi vào cảng.
High cargo handling capacity is one of the special advantages of Thị. These conditions further strengthen the confidence of shipping lines in continuing to bring cargo into Thị. Currently, the world's largest ship has a capacity of up to 24,000 TEUs. In the future, this will be a popular ship size in the transport sector. In line with this, the Thị Seaport is investing in more large-scale shore cranes, not only to benefit customers but also enhance Mep's position in the seaport industry. Ocean carriers have been able to provide services directly from Vietnam to North America and Europe without the need for transport vessels to regional transshipment hubs such as Singapore or Hong Kong, China. So what opportunities would this open up for the logistics industry in Vietnam?
It marked a significant milestone for Vietnam with this news. And not only one ship has arrived to Vietnam, it has been in the past 18 months, 4 mega ships has arrived to Thị Khai Mép Port. We can say that we definitely have a hope, which is I call feasible hope, that there will be more mega ships like that arriving into the deep sea port. And also I think that it's going to give the Vietnam a more opportunity for logistics for sure, but also giving the supply chain locally an opportunity to access to the global supply chain in the future as well.
If we compare the ports in the south of Vietnam with Singapore or Hong Kong, China, our current throughput and capacity are lower, but Vietnam is a manufacturing hub of the region and the world. So will this help Vietnam have a competitive advantage over other countries in the region?
The southern of Vietnam forecasting the potential of import-export value throughput reached to 38 million TEU. And if we look at Singapore at the moment, how much it is I think it's around 23 or 28 million. So is it considered as a very strong role for Vietnam at the moment? We tracked in terms of, like the FDI into China versus the FDI into Asia. We see the figures of into China, it continued to grow, but also the figure of FDI invested in Asian is actually catching up in the higher figures in the past 5 years, which is just also Vietnam as a number one consideration country to invest. Improving infrastructure to the point where we need to study also the country as a hub like Singapore, as a financial hub, or China as a manufacturing hub. Look at what they have been building for airport, railway, and also express highway. So I think that Vietnam can learn from that, and also has been doing the good job in terms of paying the focus and attention into infrastructure.
According to Vietnam Maritime Administration, the volume of goods through seaports nationwide in this year's first half reached almost 371 million tons, up 2% year-on-year. As Vietnam's seaport system continues to expand, many seaports are able to receive ships carrying more than 200,000 tons of cargo. The development of the seaport system has helped domestic shipping enterprises thrive in the maritime sector.
So Vietnam has really used the coastline to its advantage, and that has also been reflected in the volume growth, which most of these ports has been more than 20%, or at least more than 10% per year. And this is helping, of course, Vietnam in reaching its medium and long-term goals and becoming a fully developed and rich country.
This is one of 50 seaports operating in Haiphong City. Despite difficulties caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the seaport's total transshipment volume reached 200,000 TEUs last year, increasing by 25% compared to 2020. The seaport maintained its growth momentum in the first few months of the year, with a growth rate of nearly 60%.
Trong quý 1 và đầu quý 2 của năm 2022, Tân Cảng 128 Hải Phòng cũng đã phát triển rất là tốt, và hiện tại thì trung bình một tháng chúng tôi sản lượng thông qua cảng là đạt được 25.000 TEU, và đây cũng là cái tín hiệu đáng mừng cho cái việc nền kinh tế được phục hồi. Trong thời gian tới thì chúng tôi cũng sẽ phát triển thêm các cái dịch vụ về tàu hàng rời cũng như là các cái dịch vụ về xà lan để làm sao mà đảm bảo các cái mục tiêu về doanh thu cũng như là lợi nhuận.
Aside from the achievements, many challenges still lie ahead for Vietnam's sea freight development. Cát Lái Newport is one of the 13 largest ports in the world in terms of customs clearance volume. Its maximum design capacity can reach up to 6.5 million TEUs per year. If current infrastructure connectivity does not improve, logistics activities at Cát Lái Newport will continue to be affected, leading to congestion and prolonged waiting times for businesses.
Chúng tôi cũng tha thiết kêu gọi là làm sao đẩy nhanh tiến độ các dự án để kết nối cảng với các vùng sản xuất phía sau cảng, các vùng trung tâm phân phối, trung tâm logistics phía sau cảng, quy hoạch các khu vực để tiếp nhận các container rỗng để lưu thông hàng hóa cảng nhanh hơn.
According to the Ho Chi Minh City Logistics Association, the volume of goods has been growing rapidly, while infrastructure has not kept up. This has led to longer waiting and shipping times, raising costs for businesses. As such, the establishment of 7 professional and interconnected logistics centers is integral to solving this issue.
Sẽ giúp cho các cái doanh nghiệp logistics cũng như các doanh nghiệp sản xuất kinh doanh xuất nhập khẩu tại thành phố tiết kiệm được chi phí. Nó ảnh hưởng tới cái vấn đề là đầu tư nước ngoài luôn, bởi vì khi mà cái chi phí logistics giảm thiểu thì cái sức cạnh tranh của thành phố Hồ Chí Minh so với các cái vùng lân cận là nó sẽ nâng lên một bậc.
The city will also promote the application of information technology and create an ecosystem for sharing logistical data between businesses and state agencies, thereby optimizing the process of transporting goods and reducing logistical costs.
On the other hand, what are the difficulties and challenges that the logistics industry will face in the time ahead?
I think what is the challenges for Vietnam, the logistics in Vietnam at the moment, even though we spend 5.8% GDP around that figures to improving infrastructure, but it is still not enough with the growth of the economy at the moment, and with the opportunity that multinational company eyed into Vietnam more and more, and the growth all of a sudden is increased significantly. You look at the southern particularly, you see all the highway are 2 lanes, and it's very congested. And in the south, in terms of cargo terminal, we very small volume. If we would like to put ourselves in more high value chain, air cargo terminal is a very key to develop as well. We can also improve and try our best to improve in terms of, it's called operation excellence or efficiency in anywhere, for the import export, in the deep sea port. So if we look at the ranking in terms of logistics in Vietnam, is always the highest cost compared to other countries because of the inefficient in the road, and also the time at the port to export or import the product and distribute it in the country is always, the land is always longer compared to other ports. So that are the challenges of Vietnam at the moment.
Vietnam is establishing professional logistics centers, promoting the application of information technology and creating an ecosystem of using shared logistic data for enterprises and state agencies. In your opinion, are these solutions enough to increase the efficiency of logistic activities in Vietnam?
What we have been doing now with improving operation technology in logistics is great. But also, that I would like to emphasize that we also need to work really hard together. How could we improve and increase our manufacturing capability? And right now, a lot of big corporations, they come here and they bring their vendor, their network, but also they need a local supply chain from Vietnam, and that's where the opportunity for Vietnamese enterprises going forward. But also, one thing that is very critical for us is that for the legal framework, it has to be really mindful of how we could working toward to the great picture of the country.
Vietnam has long established itself as a favorable destination for investors wanting to diversify their Asia presence, and the increasing demand and rentals of large foreign invested firms have benefited those in the industrial park business. According to Cushman Wakefield's 2022 report, Ho Chi Minh City, Bình Dương, Đồng Nai, Long An, and Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu supply a total of more than 25,000 hectares of industrial land in the south, with occupancy rate up to 89%. Meanwhile, occupancy rate for industrial parks around Hanoi is almost at 100%.
Vietnam has been, very attractive for a lot of new manufacturing companies expanding their presence, e-commerce sector. So this actually placed a huge strain on the actual supply of high quality industrial real estate. This has obviously led to real estate developers seeking out and planning a lot of new developments.
High demand and high occupancy rate for industrial real estate also means upward pressure on the logistic infrastructure. Experts believe Vietnam should fast-track progress in closing its infrastructure gap to be able to meet foreign investors' demand and rise to be a global goods transshipment hub in the region.
Vietnam should be becoming and focusing more on becoming a regional logistics hub, as Singapore has done. Obviously, that's taken quite a lot of time to achieve. There are areas to improve. Technical capacity of the ports. There's administration things to resolve. There's tax regimes to work out. Public works, the infrastructure, transport to and from the docks, the port cities. So that road and rail infrastructure does need to be improved.
Vietnam has recorded a sharp increase in inquiries for production expansion from the end of the first quarter upon the post-pandemic reopening of Vietnam's international borders. However, improving efficiency and developing quality infrastructure connectivity will help manufacturers, logistic providers, and regulators to minimize foreseeable lags in investment inflows into Vietnam. The industrial real estate market is heating up as FDI firms are pouring investment funds into Vietnam. How has the increase in FDI inflows into the industrial sector promoted the development of industrial real estate in Vietnam in recent years?
If we look at the FDI into the country, it's accounted like 73%. Like that majority is FDI in manufacturing. That is create a very good opportunity for Vietnam in terms of industrial park and development, and also for logistics as well. And it's gave Vietnam a very great opportunity for improving and also increasing the businesses for logistics and providing more services to those FDI into the country. And also, like I mentioned, is that it's so important. It gave Vietnam an opportunity for a lot of local supply chain to be to become and join in the global supply chain.
Vietnam is emerging as a shining star in terms of attracting FDI thanks to its stable political and social situation, proximity to maritime trade routes, and having some of the busiest container hubs in the world. Will this help Vietnam logistics industry become a rising star in Asia?
It is already. We are the rising star. Economy is like, we call that is a tiger economy, which means it's very big in Asia, potentially become very big as well, sitting alongside with Japan and Korea. If we really take all the opportunity to us and turn it around, so the economy in the next 10 years, we definitely can hope for that bright future and development, and also for logistics as well. And it's gave Vietnam a very great opportunity for improving and also increasing the businesses for logistics and providing more services to those FDI into the country. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a yes for the great potential of Vietnam having at the moment.
Well, thank you so much for joining our Bizline program.
Thank you so much for having us.
The race to expand the logistic market share is getting hot. Foreign businesses have continually been pouring capital into and scaling up their operations in Vietnam. Experts believe booming e-commerce, optimistic economic growth, and growing domestic production and consumption has been generating true opportunities for the logistics sectors. Therefore, with more modern logistics centers and more effective management solutions, the logistics sector will be able to address the weaknesses in the supply chain, warehousing and processing, and thrive in the coming time. And on that note, we wrap up this edition of Bizline. Feel free to download our app VTV Go from App Store and Google Play, or subscribe to our YouTube channel VTV4 Go for more news and updates. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.